This is a Nice Guys Patreon exclusive.
Welcome to another NHL team season preview video. 32 teams in 32 days rolls along here on the Ice Guys. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith with you to talk Washington Capitals for the upcoming season. And for this video, we recruited Nikita Kashersky to help us out and talking Washington Capitals because his former teammate in the ECHL is the head coach of this team, Spencer Carberry. So we figured let's bring in Nikita to talk about his old buddy and the team he's now coaching, the Washington Capitals. Nikita, how are things?
Things are good. Thanks, guys, for having me.
Yeah, no doubt. Just quickly, how's the summer been? You know, your work got your own client business now with players. How's that going?
It's good. Have a bunch of clients now. Summers are busier, and right now just the season's about to start for a lot of my clients. Still some clients are flying in, so it's been very good summer. So I'm actually kind of hoping for it to be over, that period of a lot of guys coming in. So, just relax after that a little bit more.
Good to hear. We wish you all the best, definitely, with the biz moving forward. The Washington Capitals coming up for this upcoming season are a team that, I'll be honest, in year one of Spencer Carberry, I thought you could compare what Spencer Carberry got out of this team last year to Moses parting the Red Sea or someone walking on water. You know, I really think that's what he did with this team. How they got into the playoffs it's hard to imagine they could with the roster they had. But you talk about a coach that when he was hired, I liked the hire. He had worked under Sheldon Keefe with the Toronto Maple Leafs as an assistant, comes from that tree, learned a lot, was one of the pretty good assistants there when he was with Toronto. I thought he did a really good job there as an assistant coach. I thought he was ready for this opportunity. But I did not like the Washington team going into last year. It was hard to like them, I should say, for sure, based on the roster they had. It just seemed very thin, not a lot of depth scoring, older players, older team, questionable goaltending. And yet here's Spencer Carberry squeezing the lemon until it's dry, essentially, and getting every ounce of this team he could, getting them into the playoffs. Now, they got absolutely smoked in the first round by the New York Rangers, but get into the playoffs, I thought it was an impressive feat in first year as a new head coach in the National Hockey League for a roster that I don't think was all that great last year. So I give Spencer Carberry all the credit for that. You look at coming into this year, what he has to deal with. I guess the headline coming into the year for Washington is Ovechkin chasing Wayne Gretzky's goal record. It kind of feels like that's kind of overshadowed the team goals and the team, what they do or what they don't accomplish as a team. It's almost like it's all about Ovechkin trying to chase down number 99 in the goal record, which he's 41 away from tying and 42 away from breaking. Right now. He's expected to start the season with Dylan Strome and Andrew Mangiapane for the Washington Capitals. They're going to test their fate with the newest addition of the Capitals, Mangiapane on the top line. Now you're talking about an Alex Ovechkin who's coming off a 31-goal season, certainly a drop-off from a lot of the 40-plus goal seasons we've seen throughout his career. To be honest with you, it's pretty damn impressive, guys. He got to 31 last year because he was way off pace to even get to 31, at one point last year. So it'll be interesting to see how the season progresses for OV as he continues to chase down the Wayne Gretzky goal record. You look at the rest of the forward group. You've got Connor McMichael. You've got Pierre-Luc Dubois, who was brought in a trade with the LA Kings, which sent, of course, Darcy, Kemper the other way. You look at this as a situation where, what are we going to get here essentially from Pierre-Luc Dubois now with the Washington Capitals? When he's motivated and he's on and he's focused and all that stuff, it's great. And then when he's totally out like a light and he's invisible and just not using his size, not being physical, not battling for pucks, which has been a complaint of his and a criticism of his for a few years now, it can get ugly watching this guy play at times. So can Spencer Carberry light the fuse that is Pierre-Luc Dubois this year? And Nikita's going to have a good probably opinion on that, considering he knows Mr. Carberry quite well. It'll be interesting to see if Spencer can get something max value or max effort, max performance out of PLD, who's been kind of a malcontent, here these last couple of years. You've got Sonny Milano, Hendrix Lapierre, Alexei Protas rounding out the third line for this group. Keep in mind, TJ Oshie starting the season on injured reserve. Who knows where we're at with him in his career right now? Keep in mind, he started this new equipment like company here too.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, protective equipment. And I think he's really into that. So you have to ask yourself, with the injuries and the age mounting for TJ, how excited is he to keep playing? You really do have to ask that. So it's going to be interesting to see with TJ Oshie here. Nick Backstrom, same thing. It's hard to envision him having a long-term pathway back playing hockey.
Wilson, Radish.
Yep. Yeah, no question. And you worry about that for sure with this team. They bring in Brandon Duhaime, which gives them a little grit, in the fourth line. Taylor Radish here as well. Jacob Vrana, what's old is new again. He's back with the Washington Capitals once again, so it'll be interesting to see. But
he's on PTO though, right? Yeah, he's on PTO, so he's not even signed yet.
That's true. Good point. You're right. It's not an actual signing that they made with Jacob Vrana, just a PTO. I don't know if there's Ovechkin, can you count on him for 30, 40 at this stage of his career? You're going to have to hope Mangiapane hits as a top-line player, and it was spotty for him with Calgary. He had that one great year. Then he kind of dipped down again and declined a little bit. I like Tom Wilson. PLD, though, and McMichael and that second line, it's a big if right there. It's a big if right there if you're going to get that consistent offense, really from all four lines with this group. And then on the blue line, you've got John Carlson, who I like, and I thought he had a pretty good year last year. Jacob Chikrin comes in from the this blue line quite a bit. Matt Roy, actually not a bad addition, in my opinion, getting Matt Roy from the LA Kings. I think that's not a bad one for this team. I think when also you look at the rest of the blue line here for the Washington Capitals, Rasmus Sandin, they expected him to give them a little pop on that blue line. I don't know if we saw it consistently, though, necessarily from him. So definitely some concerns there. I don't think it was – I think still he played better with Toronto, quite honestly, than we saw at times with Washington last year. So there's big-time questions about the blue line as well for the Capitals coming into this season. And then last but not least in net, you look at it for this team. And when you're talking about Charlie Lindgren, Logan Thompson, yeah, Lindgren actually gave them a pretty good season last year, all things considered. But can you duplicate that? Is there another good year in Charlie Lindgren, who's been a journeyman, AHL goalie actually for most of his career prior to last year? And then you bring in Logan Thompson. I think Logan Thompson, look, it would not shock me if Logan Thompson ends up being the starting goalie for this team at some point. I do think there's a little bit higher upside, higher ceiling. Yeah, I would think so, Nikita, that he's got a chance. And then you got the young kid waiting in the wings, young prospect, Hunter Shepard, who, of course, has backstopped Hershey in the American Hockey League to back-to-back Calder Cup championships. So you can't rule him out, maybe making the team out of training camp as on this roster as a goaltender. So they got some decisions to make as far as their goaltending between Lindgren, Thompson, and Shepard. I like Carberry. I really do. And because I like the coach, and I think he's did a hell of a job last year, and he's going to be a damn good coach in this league, I leave the door open for Washington to surprise again. But am I betting on it? Hell no. Not with this roster, not with this blue line, which I think, has got some holes in it as well. And keep in mind, Chikrin's not off one of his better years either last year. No. So he's got something to prove this year with the Capitals coming over from the Ottawa Senators. And then in net, you got potential for Lindgren and Thompson and Shepard to all play well, but that's the key, potential. Is it something you're sold on 100%? Not me. Alex, we'll turn to you now with the Washington Capitals. There's a lot of ifs, and it's a lot of pieces, and I'm not sure they'll all fit. I love the coach. He's a coach that might make them fit, but boy, he's got some work to do, just like he did last year.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a team where, like I said, it's predicated on how much can the coach get out of a group of guys. And like I said, he was able to get all he could out of that team last year to get them to the playoffs. Willed them through. It was a really tough wild card battle, but you could tell they ran out of steam altogether in the playoffs last year. And that's the thing you worry about. And you look at this team long term. Ovechkin, of course, being at 39 years of age, only having 2 years left on his deal. You look at the guys who are here who had the longest deals of them now. Pierre-Luc Dubois, of course, via the trade. Tom Wilson, who's going to be around, and he's had injury issues, but he's won't be a free agent again until 2031. And then Matt Roy, as you mentioned, and I think that's a lot of money, $5.75 million, keeping him around until 2030 for a guy who I watched in LA sometimes looked like he was walking on the ice while everybody else was skating. And that's not good when you're talking about Cap's team that was painfully slow at times in games. I mean, that was what killed them in that playoff series. The Rangers just outskated the shit out of them for the majority of the contest. You can't have that in the NHL these days, especially in the East. There's a lot of hard skating, physical teams like Florida, like Boston, teams with a ton of speed like Toronto. If you can't keep up with those guys on a nightly basis, it's going to be hard to get wins in this league. I know, they're taking a more of a slower man-to-man approach. They're going to have to, rely more on the physicality, rely more on forcing turnovers in the neutral zone to generate their offense. And there's some players and pieces that I do like. I love some of these bottom six guys. They add a lot of grit. Brandon Duhaime's a guy that I've always been a fan of. He's, signed a new 2-year deal. Taylor Radish is a guy who's hardworking. Doesn't always, the guys who don't always end up doing stuff that ends up on the score sheet, but you notice them on the ice. They have a lot of that talent. So if those guys can start chipping in offensively, so where it won't have to be relying on Wilson getting goals or Ovechkin getting all the goals and like that will be a huge plus. And also the goaltending. How great is it to have two quality goaltenders and you've only taken up less than $2 million of the cap? I mean, it's crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Charlie Lindgren. Lindgren's probably not going to end up getting a big multi-million-dollar deal, but you have to think Logan Thompson's going to be re-signed, and he's going to be getting at least $5-6 million in his next deal, especially if he has another good season this year. So you got two guys who are UFAs at the end of the year who want to prove themselves and prove the league that they belong. I think that's going to be a huge plus for Washington. You have two guys you can turn to and rely on any given night. And these are guys that are, proven gamers. Lindgren has battled his ass off in the AHL for years. He's earned the chance to be with an NHL team and be part of a 1A, 1B setup. And Logan Thompson, this guy was absolutely electric in Vegas, and then he went down with an injury. And that's when we saw Aiden Hill take over, and the rest is history. He wins the cup, and now he's out of town. But we know Logan Thompson's a guy who can deliver you a big game. He's somebody you can trust when you need saves late in the contest. So there's good pieces with Washington. There's some bad pieces with Washington. And I just think, like I said, it's all about it really kind of falls on Carberry in a sense, right? Like, can you get as much out of this team this year like you did last year? I don't know if that's going to happen. If it doesn't, it's not necessarily it's not Carberry's fault if he can't get it out of him. Because, like I said, this team, if they were in the West, this team would be probably a lottery pick contender. But because of how condensed everything is in the East, it's like, all right, all you got to do is string together a few wins, especially against division opponents. They can find themselves right there in that wild card race again. So it's tough. It remains to be seen. I don't have any futures plays for Washington now. It's a team I'll be looking on from a game-to-game basis. And then, of course, we get into the second half of the season. So definitely be a team that I think will have a lot of games go past regulation. So as far as draw season goes, Washington will probably be a team that's on my ticket, especially if they are in those wild card races late. We saw that a lot last year with that Washington-Detroit series where they came, the home and they came back down 3 goals and in the forcing OT. And spots like that, they're going to be a hard-working team, a gritty team, and they're a team that they won't be dead if it's 4-2 with 5 minutes left in the third. They'll be a team that will fight like hell to try and get back into a game. So live betting angles will be great with Washington. Game-to-game angles will be great with Washington. But as far as futures with the playoffs or anything like that, I remain a little bullish on that.
Yeah, no doubt. For sure. It's going to be an interesting team. You're right about the fact they're going to work hard. They worked hard last year. And with Spencer Carberry at the helm, they will again this year. I do want to mention about Thompson. One of the funniest, most unique, craziest you've been traded stories ever, where he's actually traded from the Vegas Golden Knights to the Washington Capitals during the NHL draft while he is signing autographs at the draft in Las Vegas for Vegas Golden Knights fans. And all of a sudden he finds out he's a Washington Capital. But he kept signing the autographs even after he found out about the trade. So every last autograph and every last kid that was in line looking for an autograph, he signed it, even though he was no longer a member of the Golden Knights. Yep. How about that? How about that for an incredible gesture from Logan Thompson? Great stuff. And one last thing I'll throw to, and a great segue to Nikita, because this guy I'm about to mention is Russian. Ivan Miroshnichenko for the Washington Capitals. This is a guy that they think's got offensive punch. We didn't see it last year with this Capitals team. What do we see? 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points in 21 games after he got called up to the Capitals, and then he went back down to Hershey again. If this team's going to get a shot in the arm from anyone offensively, because they need it, I don't think there's a plethora of goals littered up and down this lineup along the 4 lines that they've assembled. Miroshnichenko's got to hit. You got to get a little something from him this year, a little pop from him. And he's got to make the team first, too. Like, that's another thing. His spot on this Capitals roster is not guaranteed. He's got to earn it here in training camp. So, but if he does make the team, he's going to need to give them some offense. He's capable of it, and they're going to probably need it with the forward group, the way it's constructed right now. Nikita, it's over to you. What do you think for these Washington Capitals?
I think gamble responsibly.
Great advice.
Yes.
Right off the hop.
Absolutely.
Great advice.
Right off the hop. But I think they're a good bet, for somebody. If you placing bets with somebody to make the playoffs, I think they're pretty good odds out there. So I think it's a nice money to spend there.
If they were to make it, the price would be good. You're right about that.
Yeah, I think so. So you don't have to put too much, but I mean, probably the return would be nice. You said it right. I mean, it's like a puzzle, when you build a team, and for them, they had to work around with the budget, and a lot of older guys, obviously big salary caps out there. They're taking a lot of money. I think great job they did with the goaltending for sure. Like you mentioned, very little money spent, but good goalies. I mean, they both were about the same. I think they had, what is it, like 25, 24 victories, maybe 14 losses, both, something like that. So they were in the victory. So I think, it's a great tendency. And I think it started around COVID time where, you wanted to have, 1-2, 1A, 1B goalie. And I think that's what they have right now. So that's pretty solid. I think they're adding Vrana on PTO just because they needed some speed. I mean, the guy is fast, and that's what I think the whole view that they have is they need everyone can kind of be on the same level of 25, 20 goals per season. And I think they have a lot of guys who can do that just as long as they're, pitching in and scoring and playing the right way, like Carberry wants them to play. So I think they would be, this is their goal. And I think they put in, obviously Chikrin up there on defense, give him some veteran presence as well. And on the power play too. I think he's a good guy there. Carlson, Roy, Van Riemsdyk, obviously. Alexiev, the young guy. They're there in there now. And like you said, they're playing around with the lines, Strom, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Milano's there. So I think all of these guys, there could be like 20-some goals. And if you have like 6 or 7 guys hitting 20 plus, I mean, it could be something. So they're betting a lot, I think, on the guys. And I think they're trying to manage with their budget. But I think they did a pretty good job. And they're also betting on Carberry, obviously, to get the best out of them. So I think that's what the general manager, when they were getting guys, they were kind of like, all right, Pierre-Luc, let's make a gamble on him. Let's gamble on him because he is.
Right. That's a bigger gamble than any bet I place on a daily basis. That one.
It is, but I mean,
if
he hits, I mean, the guy has a tremendous potential. Like, I mean, if he hits, it's like playing in casino, you hit double zeros.
It's found money.
Yeah, exactly. So playing a little bit roulette here, but I think that's what they're counting on, just because how great Carberry worked with them, and
but the flip side is you overplay your hand and gamble like that, and you come up craps. That could happen too to Washington here with PLD.
Yeah. It is, but I mean, like you said, there are a lot of guys who, a couple of guys whose contracts are running out. So, there's the money out there. So you never know how it goes. I mean, obviously, I think Ovi is going to finish his career in Washington Capitals, but you never know how the season goes. So, he's got a couple of more, years in his contract, 2 more years. I'm sure he's going to beat Gretzky next year. I don't know about this year. It would be incredible if he does. I mean, I wish him all the best and only, but I think he beats him anyways. We're laughing. Even if he would be in his wheelchair, I think he keeps playing until he beats it, but I think he beats him next year for sure. But you never know where it goes. It's like it's always great to see somebody start the career in one team and then finish in the other. But I think it's business. You never know. Yeah. So it's you never know what's going to happen at the end of this year. When the trade deadline comes along, if they're a buyer or a seller. and his contract. And I mean, he's pretty good guy to have during the playoffs. I mean, to have that put somebody like that on a power play, somebody who can move the money around and put him on a power play. You know, that's a hell of a punch. I mean, obviously, Capitals would hate to lose him, and I don't want them to do that. And I want them to make the playoffs and wish Carbs all the best. But you never know how the season might go.
Are you more of a Washington fan, though, or a Carbs fan? That's the question. Yeah.
I'm more of a Carbs, you
There
know,
you go.
obviously Ovi, you know, we grew up together, so there's always, you know, cheering for him, and it's just incredible. I mean, when we were kids, you'd never think it'd be the guy who's trying to beat Gretzky. So, you know, he just became an absolute legend.
One of the best ever, obviously.
Oh,
He'll go down as that. Yeah.
It's insane just to realize it. I mean, you're with the guy who just became like that. I mean, obviously, a lot of kids can say that about like Canadians and stuff like that, but it's just, I mean, a kid that you grew up in your hometown, and then all of a sudden now he's, you know, 42 goals away from becoming the greatest goal scorer of all time.
Yeah,
it's insane.
It's amazing.
It's awesome.
And I think there's a big conundrum, you know, kind of around that, because I know me as a fan, I want to see him break that record in a Capitals uniform, because he's been there his whole career. But at the same time, he definitely also seems like a kind of guy that if he were to get moved somewhere, we would probably see a huge boost in his game. I think he's a guy who, you know, because he's been there his whole career, a change of scenery wouldn't be the worst thing for Ovechkin's game. But at the same time, it would just be weird, you know. Like, it's going to be weird, obviously, seeing Steven Stamkos in a Nashville sweater this year. Obviously, you talk about.
I think he's going to do awesome. By the way.
Yeah, I think so too. But you see these guys that you grew up in watching them play with this one team for so long, in an era and time where you don't see, you know, guys staying around with one organization for 10 plus years, and so it would just be weird to see him getting moved. But at the same time, I think that because he seems like a guy who has about 3 or 4 years left in him, honestly. Like, you know, he hasn't had any real serious injuries throughout his career. He's stayed relatively healthy. He's always been durable, even with his physical style of play. So that's something that, you know, like I said, you know, it remains to be seen. And like I said, if Washington's on the cusp of making the playoffs and they get a good enough package back, I mean, like I said, the fans might revolt, but if you can make a deal, you know, you make a deal. Like I said, it's business at the end of the day. So that is something that'll be interesting to see. You know, what happens with Ovechkin. You know, we know, like I said, feel like he gets the record next year, but is he wearing a Cap sweater when he does it?
Will he take the Crosby route and want to stay his whole career in Washington like Crosby is in Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
I mean, it's you know, so many stories you hear about Crosby when he takes the discounts on his contract. I mean, just because he wants to be winning. You know, and I'm sure Alex wants to be winning as well, but he also got a second thing, you know, in his mind, of course, is beating the record as well.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's playing another 2 years for sure. Who knows if he's going to be re-signing after the end of the contract. But I'm sure that's probably on his mind, number one, and maybe winning the second Stanley Cup is the second one. But yeah, like I said, it depends how the season. He the past few years he started slow, and he even said himself, you know, the off season he hates off season training. Yeah. So you know, it could be a slow start, maybe.
It could be, because I'll tell you right now, Nikita, he looked like, and we saw this, we talked about this on the show last year, October to January. He looked like the ghost of Alex Ovechkin last year early on. We couldn't recognize him. Oh, yeah. Like, where's the goals? Where's the finish? Where's the He didn't really have much of it. And then all of a sudden, post All-Star break, it looked like the old Ovechkin again. Like, he was really good after the All-Star break, and he found his goal-scoring touch again. But where it was from October till January, we don't know. And that's why if you're betting Ovechkin season-long goal props or on a game-in, game-out basis to score a goal, maybe pump the brakes until you see it with your own two eyes that he's ready to have a strong start right out of the gate in October, especially hearing you, Nikita, say that he's not fond of the off-season training you need to put in to be at your absolute best right away early in the year.
Well, he said it himself. That's the thing. It's not me just kind of saying it. You know, he said it himself in a bunch of interviews that he hates that. He hates that process.
Yep.
And probably a lot of guys, you know, might say the same.
They all hate that process, but they got to do it. They want to be
and especially it has to be if you get into your late 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
You've been doing this forever. You just want to play hockey.
He
You can get out there and
he's
go out and
he
play. So
he's a natural, and a lot of guys will tell you the same. I mean, he put in the work. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, he's an absolute truck. Like he's just a horse. Like he just naturally strong, and he just a God-given talent. The scoring, obviously hard work, but gets it done anyways. So I think he's 30 plus this year. I don't know if he's going to be 40. If he has a faster start, then a lot of people is going to be going to start betting that he's going to beat it this year. Just it all depends on his start, what he put in the summer. So we'll see.
I was looking up because you brought it up, Nikita, about that if someone put a few bucks on Washington to make the playoffs, you'd get a pretty good return on it. Washington currently at Bet365 is plus 160, right now to make the playoffs. That's the price we're seeing right now with them. So again, that's not a bad price. Not a bad price in a wide open. You said it. I remember Alex mentioned it in one of our previous videos when it was a Metro team we were talking about. I don't know which one it was, but I remember him saying the Metro division this year is like Tupperware. You've got your at the top, you've got your probably Rangers, maybe Carolina, but probably Rangers, and at the bottom you got Columbus. That's probably first and last, and then you shake up the rest of the teams in that division in between, and there you go. They may land wherever they may. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And so that's why Washington's got a chance. It's a division where there are questions about the Flyers, Penguins, other teams in that division. That there's a pathway if Spencer Carberry gets every ounce out of this team again, like he did last year, that they can be a playoff team. I'm going to say it though, Miroshnichenko again. Ivan Miroshnichenko here is going to be important. I think if he comes out of training camp, plays well in preseason, makes the team, and then finally shows that offense that think he can deliver. Boy, it will be a boost. Because, look, we don't know when Oshie's coming back. We don't know if Backstrom's ever going to play again. So those are guys you've counted on for years offensively here. So you need someone like that maybe to step up for this team. And it'll be interesting to see if they can. And Mangiapane, there's a lot of pressure on Mangiapane. He might start on the season on the top line with Ovi and Dylan Strome. There's going to be some onus on him to produce.
I think that's the line. And I think it's the other line, Dowd. I think Radish and
there are times Nick Dowd was their best scorer last year. That guy is a sneaky little goal scorer for a fourth liner. He's always been like that, Nick Dowd.
Oh yeah, he's a very trustworthy guy. I mean, he's been in the organization from quite some time. Yeah.
Watch out for those plus 500 goal props this year on Nick Dowd. Might see it. I remember I took a shot with that a couple of times last year. Yeah, no question. We'll wrap up just one last thing I wanted to mention. Offense is what's got to get better. Like defensively, they were middle of the pack. Smack dab in the middle, 16th, 3.07 goals against per game. The problem was the offense. Like last year, they were ranked 28th in offense, 2.63 goals scored per game. That's not enough these days in the NHL. And only Seattle, Anaheim, San Jose, and Chicago scored fewer goals per game last year than the Washington Capitals. So that's the thing. That's what the main issue was. I'm sure Ovechkin's first half struggles played a part. Lack of depth offensively played a part, but that's what's going to have to improve. And I'm still not sure that roster on paper is leaps and bounds better offensively this year compared to last year. It's something we'll have to wait and see on for sure. Before we wrap up, Alex, any final thoughts you want to mention regarding Washington?
No, yeah, it's just like I said, they're an interesting team. Like I said, what I mentioned about the whole Tupperware theory with the Metro, it remains true, and that's where Washington kind of slots. This is a team that could be third in the division. It could be a lottery pick and be right there with Columbus at the bottom of the division. It just kind of just depends on a nightly basis. Like I said, we know they're going to work hard. They're one of the two teams right there with Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia was the team I was actually mentioning about. The effort will be there. It's just whether the effort turns into goals, turns into wins is another question. But there will certainly be this will be a pesky team to play on a given night. They won't make things easy for a lot of their opponents. So when you do that and you have good goaltending, good defense, you do give yourself a chance. Like I said, especially in those tighter games late in the season.
Nikita, they did not make things easy for your friend and former teammate, Spencer Carberry, when he first got this job, saying, here's the roster. And again, this year, it looks like the same thing. Here's the roster. Get what you can out of it.
Well, I don't know if he's part of it or not, but I mean, look on the paper. Like, I mean, I played against Carbs when he was a head coach in East Coast, and he always had those like teams that you hated playing against. And, he had a bunch of pricks always on the team who played really tough. They went after you, had a couple of vets, playing for him, the guys he knew would do the work, even though they could be, looking at the paper, at the stat sheet, you're like, oh, what is this old guy doing here? But then they go out there and do the work, and so he could get out of them. So same type of thing here. I think they added some guys who they're betting on them, and they're betting on their coach. And I don't know if he was part of the process, but maybe he was part of the process, obviously selection and, getting some guys and getting some names out there. But I think they added some good guys, like I said, for that, mid-pack, 20 plus goals. If, I mean, they can squeeze out of them and all these guys hit that, I mean, they could get a good. And they added some good presence on D, some vets, out there, and a good goaltending. I think they did pretty good job. It's just they have to hit it. And I think that's, like I said in the beginning, they're betting on Carbs to squeeze it out of them, just what he did last year. And that's why I think the management is like, all right, if he was able to do it with last year, I mean, let's add some guys who have great potential and can get the steam. So I think that's what it is. So I hope they do. I mean, it would be awesome to see for him to get all of their potential out, and for this team, to make the playoffs again, and maybe even go for it. Go for the second round or whatnot.
That's 1,000% right. Everything you said is just right on the money, Nikita. I think this GM brought in some of the players he did, cheaper money, off down seasons, I should say, and say, this is a great coach. He'll work with these guys. He'll get the most out of them. And there's a bunch on this roster. Mangiapane, this guy scored 35 a couple of years ago, 17 2 years ago, and then 14 last year after that. But now he's with Spencer Carberry. Get the most out of him. That's what Washington's open for. Get the most out of Andrew Mangiapane this year.
But he was where? Mangiapane was in Calgary?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, obviously I'm not in hockey and everything, but I mean, what happened to Tkachuk left out of there, and who went in there, and how the first season went there?
Yes.
Not so
Not
good.
the same since, the Monahan and Gaudreau and Tkachuk days, when they were all there in Calgary.
Exactly. So, I mean, obviously, who knows what's going on there? I hope, obviously, it turns around in Calgary as well, but it just hasn't been, and
Jacob
there have been a lot
Chychrun.
of great play. Yeah.
Down year last year with Ottawa. But now he's with Carberry. Carberry can get the most out of him. You could even say that about Matt Roy a little bit. Not the best year for Roy last year.
was a couple of years ago. Everyone was talking about it. How
Yeah,
great
right.
it
Yeah,
was.
everybody wanted him. You're right. Yeah.
Everybody wanted him, and now all of a sudden they're like, oh, Capitals are getting him. He's done or something like that. But I mean, you never know. That's what I'm saying. A bunch of guys who people maybe stop believing.
Get him on the cheap, put him with Carberry, who can coach the hell out of them and get the most out of them. That's their thinking. That's their process here, Washington, in the offseason. That's what it looks like to me. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at Vegas their first year.
Yeah.
When there was when the draft happened, the fantasy draft happened, like when you look at a roster, you're like, I don't know about these guys. And then what happened? They were in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Who lost, of course, to Ovi and the Washington Capitals, coincidentally enough.
Yeah, coincidentally.
See, everything comes full circle here on the Ice Guys show.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's trying to. It's everyone looks in and sometimes tries to copy the formula and everything. Yeah. So, but I don't know. I would love to see that happen, and I mean, it would be awesome.
It would be, no doubt. This has been great, and it's great to hear from you again, Nikita. It's been too long. We wish you all the best. Anything you want to say before we wrap it up and say goodbye?
No, had a lot of fun, guys. Always, just like I said, gamble responsibly.
There you go.
And all the best, and all the best to you guys at this season too. And
we appreciate it.
Do great.
Yeah, we do. We appreciate it. We need all the luck we can get. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
Especially Alex, because Alex is like the best season ever. He's coming off last
I know.
year.
Yeah, I got work
big
to do.
encore to follow. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're looking forward to it for sure. So thanks.
Do the best we can for sure. Great stuff. This has been your Washington Capitals season preview video for Alex B. Smith and Nikita Kashersky. I'm Ian Cameron. Thank you for tuning in as 32 teams in 32 days rolls along right here on the Ice Guys.